Good afternoon, friends, and thank you very much for coming for this interaction. I have two announcements to make, following which I will take any questions related to those announcements, and subsequently, if you would like me to respond to any other question, I'll try and respond to those. The first announcement that I have to make is about the forthcoming visit of the External Affairs Minister to Almaty in Kazakhstan for the Heart of Asia Ministerial Conference within the framework of the Istanbul process. For those of you who are following this is the third ministerial conference. The first was in Istanbul in 2011, I think in November. The second was in Kabul in June 2012, and this is the third conference. This brings together 14 countries who are in the neighborhood of Afghanistan. Along with them, there are 16 other countries who are not in the neighborhood or the vicinity, but who have extended support for this process. And then there are several other international and regional organizations which provide support to Afghanistan. This conference is basically, it has three elements. One is, of course, the political consultations at the ministerial level, and there will be an outcome document at the conclusion of these consultations. A second level is the various CBMs that were discussed at the Kabul Ministerial Conference, and how do we move forward in terms of those CBMs. And those of you who are interested, there are 6 confidence-building measures that were agreed to in Kabul last year. These relate to counterterrorism, counter-narcotics, disaster management, trade, commerce, and investment opportunities. And this is the CBM where we as India had taken the lead. And those of you who have been following this would recollect that we had an investment conference summit in Delhi last June. In addition, there are 2 other CBMs. These deal with infrastructure and education. So these are the CBMs that we are likely to discuss, and plans for these will be considered at the conference. Finally, the third element is coherence in terms of the actions of the regional organizations, so that there is no overlap or duplication of the activities of these organizations. So this is the ministerial conference is to be scheduled to be held on 26th of April. And it will be, of course, followed by a senior officials meeting. And along with the External Affairs Minister, we will have the special envoy to the Prime Minister for Afghanistan, Mr. Lamba, who will be attending the conference. He will be assisted by senior officials of the Ministry of External Affairs, the Additional Secretary, Mr. Yash Sinha, along with our ambassador in Kabul, and also the ambassador designate to Afghanistan. That's item number 1 in my agenda. The second is, following this meeting, External Affairs Minister will also visit Moscow. And this is largely focused, the visit is largely focused on the intersessional meeting of the India-Russia Intergovernmental Commission. As you are aware, the External Affairs Minister chairs this from the Indian side, and Mr. Rogozin, the Deputy Premier of Russia, is his counterpart chairperson from the Russian side. They are likely to have discussions on the entire gamut of our bilateral relations in terms of trade, economic, commercial, science and technology matters, and of course cultural cooperation. Of course, when the External Affairs Minister is there, he will also take the opportunity to meet with other senior members of the Russian leadership, including his counterpart, the Foreign Minister of Russia, Mr. Lavrov. I think I have exhausted in terms of the announcements to make, so I will first take questions related to these, and then I will take any other questions that you may like to ask. So if you have questions related to the two announcements that I have made, we'll take those first, and then we can proceed to anything else. Yes, yes.
Not a question, clarification. See, I believe there is another also after this.
Pardon?
There is another briefing also after this. So, will it be one question per briefing or one question per day? That depends.
The total number of people here will make it difficult for anybody to ask more than one question. So we will stick by the norms in the strictest possible interpretation of that.
Okay,
and since you don't have any questions, I think I can leave.
I have.
Yes.
This is about the foreign minister visit to Moscow. Can you just give some details, what kind of agreements, if any, are going to be signed? Though I know IGC is not a platform meant for that. Any kind of protocol or MOU or agreements? And is he meeting Putin? And also, if you could tell about the Istanbul process, this conference, which are the participating countries?
Sure. I think you asked how many questions? By common consensus, it's not more than it's more than one. So maybe I'll just answer the one which is easiest available to me. And that is, you would like to know the names of the countries who are participating in the Istanbul process. And let me have the pleasure of telling them. Yes, but you did ask. In front of everyone, it's recorded. So let me try and answer them. Or if you would like, I answer the first and then the second both, and then it's over for the day. Yes, the first question, as you are aware, the IR-IGC process is a process which is annual in nature. However, you would recollect when Mr. Rogozin first was appointed the chair of this process from the Russian side, he did come over to India, and there was an intersessional meeting. This was sometime in the first half of last year. It was followed subsequently by a full-fledged meeting. So with the External Affairs Minister, Mr. Salman Khurshid, taking over the chairmanship from his predecessor, we are following the same pattern, and this is an intersessional meeting. We do not expect any outcomes in terms of a documentation for our MOUs for these meetings. However, we hope that there will be a frank exchange of views, and India and Russia have been meeting at very senior levels on a regular basis, and we hope that this is a continuum of that meeting. Now, as regards your question relating to the membership of the Istanbul process, there are 14 members and 16 supporting members. The 14 members are Afghanistan, Azerbaijan, China, India, Iran, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Pakistan, Russian Federation, Saudi Arabia, Tajikistan, Turkey, Turkmenistan, and the UAE. And I would share with you, if you would like to know, who are the supporting members and also the regional organizations, if you would like to know. But I think there are others who perhaps would, and we can circulate this answer because it's factual in nature. And so I would suggest, yes, at this stage the program is still evolving, and we will keep you informed once the final program, including dates of travel and stay there, are finalized. We are still finalizing that program.
Not related to this, but
No, anybody else related to these two issues, and then we will take anything else. So, if there are no questions related to these two issues, could you just give me a moment, and I'll come back, and I'll just come back for that. I see that there are several missed calls on my phone, and let me attend to them, and I'll come back. I'll just come back in a minute. Yes, now any other questions that you may like to ask on any other issues? Yes, ma'am, since you are first here.
Akbar, the External Affairs Minister this morning said that India is addressing the issue of incursion by China, I quote, in an appropriate manner, and that we do not want any departure from proportionality. My question is, could you please define proportionality? Is an incursion of a platoon strength contingent of the Chinese army, or indeed any foreign army, inside 10 kilometers of a territory, proportionately speaking, a small matter? I mean, what is proportionality in this case?
But maybe I'll try and address, your question addresses the military aspects, but let me try and address what we have done so far and how we perceive this incident, because I think that would be more appropriate for me as the spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs to answer, and I think you will have a reasonably good idea of how we are approaching this entire issue. The ongoing incident that you mentioned refers to an incident in the Depsang area of the western sector of the India-China boundary, and we see this as a face-to-face situation between border personnel of the two sides due to differences on their alignment of the line of actual control. We have therefore asked the Chinese side to maintain status quo in this sector, and by status quo I mean status quo prior to this incident. Now, the term face-to-face situation is not something that we have conjured up. It is something that is referred to in the 2005 protocol for the implementation of CBMs in the military field along the line of actual control in the India-China border areas. And let me just refer to the specific article in this, and this is Article 4 of that protocol, and it reads as follows. If the border personnel of the two sides come to a face-to-face situation due to differences on the alignment of the line of actual control, they shall exercise self-restraint and take all necessary steps to avoid an escalation of the situation. And then there are a whole listing of procedures that need to be followed. And therefore, when we say face-to-face situation, this is what we are referring to. Now, the ongoing incident in the Depsang area of the western sector of the India-China boundary is a localized event. This is a sector in which there are differing perceptions of the line of actual control. That is why we have, since 1996, been maintaining that there is a need for both sides to work together in clarifying and confirming the line of actual control. What steps have we taken since this incident occurred? Those of you who are aware, perhaps have been following this, are aware that this came to note on 15th April. On 16th April morning, Mr. Gautam Bambawale, the Joint Secretary East Asia, who chairs the working mechanism for consultation and coordination on India-China border affairs, spoke to his counterpart, who is the Director General Border Affairs of the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This was on 16th morning. Subsequently, perhaps you are all aware that on 18th morning, there were a flag meeting. Following that, on 18th evening, the Foreign Secretary expressed the concerns of the government of India to the Ambassador of China in Delhi. This morning, there is a flag meeting which is still underway by my last account. I do not have a readout. Let's wait for that. So I hope you are able to understand what the situation in technical terms is and what we have done. And let me also try and clarify that overall, the India-China border areas continue to remain peaceful. We believe that this ongoing incident can be handled on the basis of agreements between the two countries and through mechanisms established under those agreements to resolve such situations peacefully. I hope I have clarified to a large extent without getting into the technical details, because I don't think I'm competent to respond to the technical details of situations on the border. But yes, Ranjit?
Has India sent any additional troops to the area to meet any eventuality?
I just mentioned to you, I'm not the right person to handle questions relating to operational details on the border. I suggest you or your colleagues could address such questions to people who are appropriately qualified to answer that. All what I have explained to you is what action we have taken to try and have this matter resolved peacefully. And it has been our experience that similar incidents in the past have been resolved peacefully, and we hope to resolve this incident too peacefully. So please, on issues relating to other than peaceful means, you may like to address other appropriate organs who would deal with this. Yes, Nilova?
When Mr. Bambawale spoke with his counterpart on the 16th, what kind of a response did he get? I mean, you've told us what we've been doing. What have their responses been, please?
This was followed on the 18th by a border meeting, flag meeting. So I suppose there was some movement during those talks which led to the flag meeting. Yes.
So since this is the
Vishal.
first opportunity for an on-the-record statement, there have been sort of differing reports. Can we have a factual narration of what has happened? How deep inside are the Chinese troops? What are the numbers of the Chinese troops? And what sort of structures / tentage they've raised there in that place?
Again, as I said, my job is to interact and discuss this at a diplomatic level. There are others in Government of India who you are well aware of who may be able to provide you that information. But please understand, irrespective of where we are coming from, I've explained to you how we in the Ministry of External Affairs have taken this up, have conveyed the concerns, and what has been the outcome of those concerns. So my suggestion is please wait on. If there is a readout at the end of the flag meeting today, that would be an appropriate time to ask these questions and seek responses from those who are involved in that process. I am not involved in that process, as you would see. Yes, Nidhi?
The Chinese Foreign Ministry said yesterday that they had not trespassed into Indian territory. This morning, we spoke to the Chinese embassy and they said that they stand by that statement. How would you respond to that? And also, is there any effort to look at this, politically and reach out to them at a political level and not just at the diplomatic level?
Yes, I'd like to draw, as I said, I think we need to go through very carefully about mechanisms and agreements that we have on this issue bilaterally. And let me try and quote to you one of the agreements which will indicate about differing perceptions. And this is Article 10 of the 1996 Agreement on Confidence Building Measures in the Military Field along the line of actual control in the India-China border areas. Article 10 states as follows. The two sides agree to speed up the process of clarification and confirmation of the line of actual control. As an initial step in this process, they are clarifying the alignment of the line of actual control in those segments where they have different perceptions. This is a written document which should be available publicly, and all we are saying is that in our perception or in our view or in our approach, we see this as a situation of differing perceptions. This is based on agreements and mechanisms that we have established. We've activated those mechanisms based on our understanding of what the situation is and what the agreements between the two countries provide for. Yes, Parul?
Since you've referred to previous incidents, there have been other similar incidents, you said. Should we understand then that your government doesn't believe this one to be a particularly provocative act?
I will not get into a description of the incident, but all I would like to say is that we have resolved all previous incidents peacefully. And it is our hope that we will resolve this incident too peacefully. I would appreciate if all of you help us in this and extend some space and time for us to work this out, because ultimately for such situations to work out, you require both time and space, and I would be grateful to all of you to provide us with that. I think we've asked so many questions on this same issue. Mr. Venkatnarayan, maybe you come to my rescue. Some other question.
I have one more question.
Yes. On another issue? All right. Right, sure.
So we've got reports that Chinese have also, yes, another violation of water space this time, Pangong Lake. And there are at least 20 Chinese boats coming into the Indian waters.
I'd be grateful if you can pass that information up to me, because Pardon? Yes, I'll be grateful, and we will then take it up and see where we are on this. At this moment, I must confess, this is the first I have heard about this issue, because all of you have been asking me since this morning or last evening about the ongoing incident in the Dipsang area, and so I did come prepared with a lot of homework on that issue. Yes, unfortunately, I don't have that leisure of being able to talk to my principals the way you can. Still on this? What? Related. Can we please have... Yes.
Any change in the program of visit of Chinese Premier to India next month?
Let me put it this way. Both India and China are committed to having high-level visits. There is a commitment both by our Prime Minister to visit China, and an invitation from our Prime Minister for the Chinese Prime Minister to visit India. We are still working on these issues, and once they are finalized, we will certainly share it with you on when those commitments which we have agreed to will materialize. So at this stage, I just announced a visit of the External Affairs Minister 2 days from today. And the visit beyond that, I restricted it to a situation which is evolving when he asked me questions on that. So going by my track record, you would appreciate that anything beyond the end of this month is like beyond the horizon as far as I am concerned. I know you are much better organized, and I appreciate that, but given my limited organizational capacities, I focus on the here and now. Again on this? Yes.
Actually, I would like to know whether this in recent times, is it the real face-to-face situation?
I don't know what you're asking, but I've explained to you what is this situation and how we describe it. You should have asked and found out a situation when it happened then, how we had described it, because since I took over, this is the first such situation. But those who have been longer here are aware of these situations developing previously, and differing perceptions being part of our vocabulary going back to more than a decade or so on these issues. I just related to you how this notion of differing perceptions figures in documents going back to 1996. And so I'm certain they may have been, but I don't think it would be proper for me to account for it. They may have been in the past face-to-face situations, and your colleagues would be able to answer that better, and I'm certain there would be such situations which have been previously, and let me assure you we've resolved all of them peacefully. Yes, ma'am. On this?
No, Italian Marines.
Thank you. I never thought I would say that.
Welcome. So, our deputy foreign minister was here in town. Any contacts with somebody from the government? Any development?
My understanding is that this matter is now beyond the pale of the government of India. It rests with the Supreme Court, which will provide its judgment, by my understanding, on Thursday. We look forward to that judgment, and we will consider it and implement it expeditiously as required by the Supreme Court of India. Not to my knowledge. Yes, Sutajit.
Sir, on China, sir, on the 18th we had a flag meeting, and
in the morning of the 18th.
Right, in the morning. So is it safe to conclude that the two sides don't agree? I mean, that's why we are having a second flag meeting. And between these two flag meetings, is there something new that is on the table? So,
between the two flag meetings was the meeting of the Foreign Secretary with the Ambassador of China. Yes.
Akbar, does the government have a view on General Musharraf's plight, considering that the fellow caused nearly 2 wars between the two countries, and what are our expectations from the elections in Pakistan? Thanks.
Mr. Venkat Narayan, you are a seasoned correspondent who covers MEA for a long time, and you are aware that we do not comment on the internal affairs of any other country. So you, I hope, were expecting this answer, and I haven't disappointed you. Thank you very much. Oh, you have something else? Yes. Yes, no problem.
Yes, yeah.
So that everybody can listen.
Yesterday, government of Japan announced the visit of Majesty and
the Emperor
and the Empress
yes.
to India this year. So, what is your expectation or reaction to this announcement, and most likely when the visit will take place?
Yes. Let me first of all, for everybody here, confirm that both the government of Japan and the government of India are in talks for a visit by the Emperor and Empress of Japan to India this year. It is our expectation that we will be able to work out mutually convenient dates for that. At this stage, we are also focused on a prior to that, a visit by our Prime Minister to Japan. And that, in fact, we are working, and we would be hopeful of making an early announcement on that. Following that, it is our expectation that the Emperor and Empress of Japan, who we have been inviting for several years, and we had reiterated that invitation this year again, we are grateful that they are considering a visit here. And once the details are tied up, we will certainly inform you. Thank you very much.